A vote of no confidence involves the opposition passing a threshold of support, triggering an MP poll on whether to keep the existing Prime Minister in government or elect an opposition alternative. PNG Prime Minister James Marape himself came to power through a vote of no confidence, showing just how much the practice pervades PNG's politics. Of the country's last 10 parliaments, 8 have had PMs ousted by a vote of no confidence, or resigned because of the threat of one. A provision preventing no confidence votes during a government's first 18 months protected Marape until February this year, but since then he's had no peace.
Peace must prevail, unity must prevail. Let leaders invoke the process of a constitution in the vote of no confidence that is now on foot.
While Marape has so far managed to hold on to power, many are concerned it's a distraction from governing. Parliament passed 28 pieces of legislation last year, compared to just 3 this year to date. It's a time PNG can ill afford a lack of leadership, as cost of living and unemployment pressures are compounded by tribal violence and national disasters. But these votes aren't just a concern in PNG. Solomon Islands and Tonga have both seen no confidence motions in recent years, while in Vanuatu, Prime Ministers have been deposed so many times in the past 18 months, it's just held a referendum on measures to curb the practice. In PNG, moves from the government to allow a grace period once a PM has survived one motion haven't yet become law. Instead, Opposition leader Douglas Tomoriesa has promised to bring another when Parliament returns in November. Right, to unpack all this, we are joined by Scott Waide, a veteran reporter based in PNG. Hello, and thank you for joining The Pacific.
Thank you for having me, Johnson.
Now, firstly, why has PNG had so many votes of no confidence?
Well, it goes back to the multi-party system that we have, and it's supposed to work as a pressure valve for this democracy that we have. Unfortunately, every 18 months, there's a vote of no confidence being proposed or being pushed by whichever opposition parties that are there. And there have been measures put in place to try to remedy this problem by introducing legislation, constitutional changes. It's helped to some extent, but it hasn't actually resolved the problem. It'll take some time before the system and the politics matures to a point where the party numbers are limited to 2, 4-party systems. The other reason for this votes of no confidence in a Melanesian society in particular, because you've seen instances of votes of no confidence in Solomon Islands and Vanuatu, is the cultural background that everybody comes from. So the politics has to satisfy the tribe and the clan, and that plays out in national politics as well.
So how do these votes negatively impact PNG and the Pacific?
One of the most obvious is that there's so much uncertainty about who's going to lead government just before a vote of no confidence. So I'll give you an example. Just before this vote of no confidence that we had in Papua New Guinea, within the civil service, whenever there's a new government, there's also changes in the civil service heads. There's also changes in ministries. So there is this issue of continuity that it comes into question. Everybody just waits with bated breath, hoping for the best whenever there's a vote of no confidence motion.
So, Scott, what can be done to change things?
The legislation needs to be strengthened, and to a point where the political system matures. Now, we've had legislations put in place, but it'll take some time before the system becomes stronger and robust enough to withstand the instability that we continue to face.
On another note, PNG's Minister for National Planning, Anopala, criticised Australia's foreign aid program. Can you tell us a bit more about what the problem is and what needs to be done to make sure foreign aid is going to the right places?
We've always had this back and forth between Papua New Guinea and Australia in particular over aid. And the biggest concern for Papua New Guinea has been that a lot of the aid that comes into Papua New Guinea is captured by consultancy firms, management firms that are owned by Australian companies. And a lot of the money is taken up through the costs that these companies have, and very little trickles down to the actual places where the work is supposed to be done. And hence this development of this term called boomerang aid. There has to be this rethinking of how aid is delivered. It's a discussion that the UN is also having. You need locally led initiatives to be supported, and locally led organizations to take the lead in that aid.
Scott, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.